We're coming off of God of War 2018. How do you top that? How do you deliver something that players will love maybe just as much as God of War 2018? The pressure was tremendous. My name is Ariel Angelotti, and I am the senior producer for narrative.
My name is Richard Gobert. I'm the story lead for God of War Ragnarok.
I'm Jody Kupsko, and I'm the supervising dialogue designer.
It's my job to shape the story along with our writing team, our narrative director, and game director.
As a producer, it's my job to help build a team to create that content, to own the schedule in realizing that content.
I oversee the dialogue production throughout the entire titles. Every line of dialogue that you hear, every human vocalization and effort and grunt, our team touches.
So I'm a man now, like you?
No. We are not men. We are more than that. The responsibility is far greater.
In the story of God of War 2018, we find Kratos seemingly having turned over a new leaf in the Norse lands. He lives a quiet life, hidden in the woods with his wife Freya and their son Atreus. And the story starts with them mourning her death. And we learn that she made a final request before she passed away. She wanted them to spread her ashes from the highest peak in all the 9 realms. He's scared of being a bad father, a bad influence, and as a result, it's made him an absent father. His greatest fear is that he's passed that evil that's inside of him onto his son.
You are too quick to temper. You are rash, insubordinate, and out of control. This will not stand. You will honor your mother and abandon this path you have chosen. It is not too late.
They befriend Freya, who is an exiled Vanir goddess who used to be married to Odin. They meet Mimir, the self-proclaimed smartest man alive, who serves as their guide and their confidant. And they meet the Holdra brothers, Brock and Sindri, who are world-class weaponsmiths who end up their main source of upgrades and equipment. Now, among the enemies they make are the Aesir gods, whose leader is none other than Odin, someone we never meet in God of War 2018, but who casts a very long and dark shadow over the 9 realms.
There are consequences to killing a god!
Why? How do you know? How do you know?
After many adventures, Kratos and Atreus end up fulfilling Mom's wishes, and over the course of that journey, they find out more about each other and about themselves, and finally find a common ground between them. They become the close family unit that Faye hoped that they would become. In God of War Ragnarok, we fast forward a few years, and little Atreus is now a teen, and they're back to hiding out in their home in the woods in Midgard. During the course of the previous game's events, they were forced to kill Odin's grandchildren, Magni and Modi, the sons of Thor. Thor does a lot of the lion's share of Odin's dirty work, and as a consequence, he's a very violent, unstable personality. At the end of the last game, they were also forced to kill Baldur, the son of Odin and Freya, and that has its own set of consequences. He was a very powerful chess piece for Odin, one that Odin is incredibly bitter about losing. Freya has vowed vengeance against them for the killing of her son. Kratos and Atreus didn't want to kill him, they were friends with Freya, but Baldur tried to kill her in front of them, and Kratos had no other option in the moment but to kill him to save Freya's life, even though it meant losing Freya's friendship.
I will parade your cold body from every corner of every realm and feed your soul to the vilest filth in hell. That is my promise.
He saved your life.
He robbed me of everything. Everything.
His death is also foretold to bring about Fimbulwinter, which is a brutal 3-year winter that is then followed by Ragnarok. It's an apocalyptic war between all the Norse gods, the giants, the dwarves, and the elves, and an army of the dead. They're all destined to fight in a battle that basically ends the world. Kratos is understandably worried about his son and what it means for him.
You get to go on this journey with how Atreus grows into a young adult and how Kratos grows into his next era in his life, and really see kind of the parent that he's striving to be, but the person he's striving to be. I find that tale so incredibly relatable.
We had started shooting plenty of content before the pandemic hit. In fact, the week before we all went work from home, we were doing a shoot. I remember being on and off that set, running back to the office and having to talk to studio leadership about what was going down and how this was going to impact us moving forward. And those were trying times.
For us, it was a very unique challenge because we had to bring in actors and we had to record them. And so we had to look at different ways of adapting our typical motion capture process and dialogue recording process so we can continue production and continue at the quality that we wanted for our players and our fans.
We had some actors stand in for other characters, actors who were already, who were like core to one of the scenes, might just be able to play a background character in another scene to be able to avoid a situation where too many people were on set on any given day. We avoided compromising the story that we were trying to tell as a result of the pandemic and these limitations that we had to deal with. There were no cinematics that we changed. We still have the same characters in them in the final game. We just had to get a bit creative with how we shot the content.
Our actor for Atreus, Sonny, is a teenage boy, and his voice changed dramatically throughout the several years on this title.
I don't want to fight anyone. I just want answers.
We had to go in and even out that performance so it sounds like it took place over a short period of time. That was a unique challenge on this one.
The prophecies say Fimbulwinter leads to Ragnarok. War is coming.
Whether the Norse saga was going to be a trilogy or just 2 games was something we debated a lot. There were obviously pros and cons for either approach. So we waited for Cory Barlog to weigh in, and he did, and he said, let's do it in 2.
The consequence to that is, how do you wrap up the story in one game and do Ragnarok justice? How do we lead up to that and then have a big moment at the end of the game and wrap up all those loose threads? This game is bigger than what we initially envisioned. There's a lot of important story moments that we needed to cover. There are more characters that we follow the threads of. And ultimately, it ends up feeling big and epic because there is a lot there for people to enjoy.
I am very excited for folks to see this final chapter. A lot happens. We put our characters through the ringer, but we also bring them closure and we provide answers to a lot of the questions the first game posed.
Just all of the new combat that we're doing and the new interactions. There's a lot of stuff that's happening in this title that I think people are going to have fun with.
We all have our own personal Ragnaroks to deal with. And this story is about how you process that, how you own it, and how you make it a part of yourself and grow from it.
I mean, we set some stuff up at the end of last game. There's going to be some consequences this game. We're going to see how things play out between Freya and Kratos. We're going to see how the evolution of the family relationship continues. You got Brock and Sindri, the dwarves, who are kind of part of your makeshift family now. And there's going to be some other characters that we introduce that maybe going to disrupt the balance a little bit. I can't wait until players get their hands on the game or are able to experience how the story unfolds for themselves.
We have, I think, an incredibly well-rounded game. Very satisfying combat, beautiful and rich environments to explore, outstanding character art, a lush and moving soundtrack and soundscape. It's the work of hundreds of very dedicated artists, and they all have their own stories to tell.
From a combat perspective, I always, and I still feel like the meat and potatoes of any God of War game is combat. My name is Roberto Clemente. All my friends call me Bert. I'm a senior combat animator here at Sony Santa Monica.
My name is Kim Nguyen, and I'm a gameplay animator.
Hi, I'm Sabra, and I'm a senior VFX artist on God of War Ragnarok.
My name is Grace Pan, and I'm a gameplay animator in God of War Ragnarok.
Hi, I'm Stephen O'Hara, GBA, combat designer on God of War. And I create interesting and memorable creatures that players like to attack and defend against.
As an animator, you gave life to characters. You make them move, you gave them personalities, you gave them weight.
My role as a VFX artist is to put the power behind a move. You are in control of fire and earth and water and wind. Whether you are throwing your axe or on the receiving end of an enemy spell, VFX is what really gives the movement and the danger to every move that a character or enemy makes.
I work really closely with the design team and the tech art team on this project specifically. We actually work a lot with camera, along with the guidance of our great camera team, so I find myself doing fight choreography sometimes.
One of the most challenging parts about being a combat designer isn't the technical implementation of creating a creature, but it's really navigating that line between frustrating and engaging. We want to make something that makes players lean forward and focus and really try hard against that enemy and feel good about overcoming that, but we don't want to make them feel defeated if they can't figure something out.
And then it feels rewarding when you win, not because it was impossible, but because it was fun and engaging.
After the last game, we've heard the community cry out for more mini-bosses, bigger creatures, and enemy variety, and this time we really leaned into that. So in God of War Ragnarok, you're going to be traveling to all 9 realms, and each realm is going to have like its own theme of enemies that are very unique to that space. For example, in Alfheim, we're familiar with the Dark Elves, but this time around we're going to be fighting Light Elves, such as the Light Elf Warrior. One of the key learnings from the last God of War game is we don't have to think about the camera and how close combat is going to feel. We already have that knowledge, so we can build upon the close camera that we have, and we can iterate on enemies, creating more interesting scenarios. In the last game, Atreus was just starting to fight alongside Kratos, and he was learning from the master tactician. So in this game, he's trying to prove himself a little bit more, and we built upon those mechanics with him.
The previous God of War, Atreus was still a kid, right? So he has a lot of dependency on his father. And for this game, you will see Atreus moving more independently on his own as a companion.
In regards to VFX for Kratos, I think what the players really love is the powerfulness of it. When you are playing as Kratos, you really do feel like the God of War. And moving into Ragnarok, we want to really make something bigger, make it stronger, make it more of a spectacle. You want them to be like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that the Blades of Chaos could get even better, but look at that.
So as Kratos gets more powerful, he's going to have access to newer combos and newer abilities that will increase the combat depth of each weapon. For the Blades, one of the moves that I've really enjoyed from previous God of Wars is the combat grapple, and we're going to be bringing that with a new twist.
I'm very excited for players to try the blade grapple traversal moves. That brings so much more speed into the movement and the dynamic feel to it.
One of the ways we've expanded Kratos combat this time around is we've given more utility and choice to his shield loadout.
If you are a parry person, you could really go for a shield that gears towards parrying. If you're a big blocker, then you could choose a shield that will really match your playstyle.
One new mechanic or element that I'm really excited about is these combo finishers. Building up the stun meter this time around is going to lead to different ways to basically decapitate the enemy.
You're going to be able to choose, which weapon you want to have when you kill a guy. Another feature that we've added for Kratos is his new pre-fall attacks. So you could jump off a ledge, and if there's an enemy below you, you could slam down on him.
There's such an emphasis on verticality in some of these fights that it's super engaging. And as Kratos, now that you have so much mobility and that you can also take advantage of that verticality, I think it just adds such another interesting layer to a fight.
In God of War Ragnarok, we've enhanced the Kratos and Atreus duo. He's going to initiate a little bit more, be aggressive. He's going to fight alongside you, and sometimes even surprise you with his combo abilities too.
Some of the new expanded companion actions that you'll see Atreus do leverage the fact that he's older now, he's bigger now. And he's different from Kratos, so his magic has a different flavor.
Not only that they fight side by side together, there are also a lot of mini games and player interaction moments. For example, like the puzzle systems and the set pieces. You definitely will see a lot more collaborations between father and son.
Odin must have sent them!
There's so much that goes into building a big set piece. You basically iterate and iterate and iterate, and it takes testing and just seeing what works to really figure out the personality of something. Basically, every department gives it their all to make things really spectacular. There were a lot of different times that I would look back at God of War games just through the ages before 2018. There were so many amazing, huge boss fights and set pieces that it was a huge inspiration for me on my time on this project.
For the old father!
Our design philosophy for creating new and memorable enemies is basically making them a combat puzzle, similar to like chess, and focusing on the chess pieces. Each piece has its own theme and its own use.
You need to be able to see what's happening in an instant and be able to react as the player.
There's a couple of different ways that we go into making an attack very readable for the player. Sometimes we add a signature audio cue, or we'll add the different rings, such as what we did in the last game, that lets you know that this attack is unblockable, you need to dodge it.
There's so many different ways that VFX really helps not just show what an enemy is about to do, but show who the enemy really is.
Everything you design has to be surrounding the essence of the character and a story. It's what makes it believable and memorable in the first place.
I think what I'm most excited about is for players to experience the diversity of enemies that this game has to offer. You will be fighting everything from small little creatures to things that will take up the entire screen.
All of their designs run the gamut. I think each one looks so much different from the next one, and each of them have their own play styles and their own little fantasies that go into it. And so I think if you are really into Norse mythology, you'll be very interested to see how Sony Santa Monica has taken some of these creatures and interpreted them for God of War.
Everything that goes into the game, there's emotion behind it and intent behind it, and by the time it gets to you, everything that you've seen that you're going to play and experience has been sweated over, bled over, tested, and is fun to play.
I get to lead a team of fantastic and brilliant concept artists, and our role is to create the characters that you see in the game. That's everything from the main hero cast you see to the creatures, the gods, and monsters that you come across. The hope is that we get something that feels unique and stands up to the history and the legacy of what the God of War franchise has always done. I feel like from the first games, that was a similar approach that they were doing, and that's not always easy.
My name is Raf Grassetti. I'm the art director for God of War Ragnarok.
Hi, my name is Marissa Coppert. I am a character technical artist.
Hi, my name is Angela Rico, and I am a senior character artist in God of War Ragnarok.
Hi, I'm Della Longfish, and I am the lead of the character concept team at Santa Monica Studio.
Come in.
What in all yarns be the happened to him?
As a character technical artist here at SMS, I rig most of the characters and props that you see throughout the world.
As character artists, our job is to create 3D assets based on the beautiful concept art provided to us. We do this by making sure that the silhouettes on the models and the textures and materials stand out instantaneously. So when you see our characters on the screen, we want you to almost like them immediately or have a connection to them to some extent before even interacting with them.
As art director, I get the chance to collaborate with all the departments in the studio, from narrative to viz dev, because we want to make sure the factions feel correct, all the races belong to where they're supposed to be, like all the realms have very specific characteristics about them to make sure it all fits within the God of War universe.
Sorry, one more thing. Although, these are gifts I'm giving to you, so I shouldn't be sorry and you should be thankful. Anyways, here, please be careful.
In the God of War 2018, we saw Brock and Sindri, and that was the tip of the iceberg of the Huldra. And in God of War Ragnarok, we actually get to go and visit Svartalfheim, where they're from. And a great part of that, too, is we want to make sure that we expand the cast. You know, we've just seen a little bit of what was represented, and that was something that we hadn't seen.
Svartalfheim is a beautiful place. There's a lot of different biomes. You go from wetlands to mountain springs, and took a lot of inspiration from hot springs, from the minerals that you find. A lot of colorful minerals, a lot of resources. So the dwarves being the races that they are, we knew we wanted to play on that as well. So you see their influence on Svartalfheim on every corner.
It's a realm where you're going to find a lot of water environments. There's quarries. It's a very industrial city. It's very organized, and you can see all the dwarves putting all the work into creating this great city where they live in.
Knowing that they're blacksmiths, that was kind of reflected within their clothing. And you see that within the houses and every inch. We want to make sure that both the environments and characters had a cohesiveness that felt like every inch of it felt like it went together and was designed specifically by them. And again, that's something that we haven't seen in some of the other realms and is unique to these characters and their location. And the hope, it all goes together and creates a feeling within a realm that you're excited to see, feels unique, and really creates that sense of wonder where you want to go back.
Atreus!
When designing a character to match the geography around it, first it's definitely dictated by the viz dev team and the narrative team and the story team. They make sure the character is designed for features that fit in with what they need.
When designing the Grims, we took a lot of inspiration from the environment. So we took a lot of inspiration from lizards, creatures that kind of belong to that environment. They have those big claws. There's small critters to the big ones, and really building up that race, making sure they kind of belong and that realm felt lived in and that ecosystem felt like very diverse.
Making sure that it feels natural and believable is a big part that goes into the design elements. So our artist, Stephen Oakley, put a lot from the environment concepts that Luke Berliner and his team were doing and put a lot of those into actually the skin texture, even the bulk and volumes that you see in the characters. So it really does feel like not only do they belong in there, but you're able to see them and they stand out for the combat experiences with the character.
Character design is all about storytelling. In the example of Durling, his design was really tailored to convey his own personality. He's a bookkeeper from Svartalfheim, and because his job demands, he's very organized, he's very rigid, and he's a very play-by-the-rules kind of guy. But then in contrast, you have his friend. So when you see Durling connect with his pet, we see that he's not all just this rigid librarian guy, but that he's got a softer side to him.
I do believe that we're all storytellers, no matter what we do, even in the tech side of things. I mean, we work to make these characters that then tell a story, and we can also kind of put those features and traits on our rigs.
The prophecies say Fimbulwinter leads to Ragnarok. War is coming!
Svartalfheim, the dwarves, working with different races from different realms, so definitely seeing Ragnarok and the impact of that into the realm, it puts them into this position that's very interesting to see which side they take and things that they're building. So as you go through the level, you find out a lot more about this race and the political situation that is happening while Ragnarok and Fimbulwinter is taking place.
Hey, dwarves! Oh. They're, running away.
One thing that our hope is with the cast of characters within every realm is not that it's just enemies there to kill you. We want to feel believable and that there's a wide world out there, but we want to kind of plant these seeds within any cast of the realm that there's more outside of what you're playing, and we want the fans to feel like they can go back and really visit those areas and want to go explore.
If the geysers and smell here are worse because of Fimbulwinter. Maybe the earthquakes are too?
Aye.
Going into Svarheim, I'm really excited for players to experience all the new races that lived in that realm, how they play. They play very different from anything we had before. There's wildlife. It's something that kind of goes unnoticed, but we took a lot of effort to make the realm feel believable. So there's a lot in Svarheim, a lot to explore.
I'm really excited for Svartalfheim. It is a gorgeous realm. After looking through some of the cinematics and playing some of the cinematics and playing through some of the puzzles, I'm so excited how water plays such a big feature in that realm, and that is so cool.
I'm most excited for fans to finally get to see how the dwarves live. Brock and Sindri were fan favorites in the last game, so I think that all the work that we've put into Svartalfheim is going to make all the other dwarves shine just as bright as the brothers did.
The best part I have is turning on the YouTube and seeing all these callouts and all the attention to detail that the fans pick up on. That's one thing that we keep in mind when we're designing characters, to make sure we do right by the fans. And knowing that all the work we put in will be seen and appreciated, that's not always the case, but our fans just get every little nook and cranny on that. And we love that, and we packed a lot of that in for this new cast, and we hope you guys get the same feeling with God of War Ragnarok.
My favorite part of user experience design is when we get to have a player sit down and play the game and experience it regardless of the barriers they might face. Seeing players just overjoyed at the experience is one of the things that brings absolute joy to my heart. I hope that everything that we do to make accessibility better within the game, that's something that we can bring to as many people as possible. I'm Mila Pavlin, and I'm the lead UX designer on God of War Ragnarok.
My name is Sam Chaffel. I'm the associate UX accessibility designer.
My name is Zhou Xuanyi. I'm a rendering programmer.
Hi, I'm Kate Marlin, senior producer of the gameplay team. My primary job is to make sure that as I'm looking across the game, as features are developed, that designers and programmers and artists up front are asking themselves, am I taking accessibility features into account while I'm designing this? Is there something I can add systemically that will help integrate this feature across the board?
My job is to hook up everything and implement the accessibility features on the rendering side so that the designers are able to implement the features into the game.
Great! I'll head across for a better look.
User experience design allows us to look at accessibility from the user perspective. So we are the ones who are actually going into the game and looking at the different design problems that there are to solve within the game and figuring out ways that players can access that content regardless of anything that they might have a difficulty with because of accessibility concerns.
Accessibility at its core is making sure that we allow folks who want to play a game to be able to access the game and all of its features.
That allows players to have experiences that they might not otherwise be able to. From swinging your axe as Kratos to traversing the realms and experiencing the story. These features make it possible to do these things.
People are no longer limited by their physical capabilities, and they will be able to enjoy the game just like anybody else.
There's a saying in the accessibility community, never about us without us, and we really wanted to make sure that everything that we are doing is with the community and not just about them. So we have to reach out to fans and understand what their needs are when it comes to accessibility concerns, and we have to reach out through consultants and playtesters to understand what things may be hindering someone from being able to complete the game.
It's always the best to be able to communicate with the user and see what they're happy with and what they want improved.
Some of the most inspiring things that I've seen that have made me want to think more about accessibility is seeing the stories that players have and how much it means to them when they're able to sit down with the game for the first time and play more than they ever thought they could.
Boy, we must be better. You must never forget that.
With the last God of War, we ended the game understanding that there were major problems with the way that we were designing for accessibility.
Based on community feedback from the last title, we've incorporated several features into this title to make the experience more accessible.
We talked to them about what they needed in order to play going forward, and we started to prioritize things very early in production. I think that was one of the biggest lessons we learned, is that early production, making sure that we have everything in place at the beginning of the development cycle. If you're trying to bake a blueberry muffin, you don't wait until the end to put the blueberries in. You make sure that it's in the batter. And with accessibility, we needed to make sure that we put those blueberries into the batter at the beginning so that they could bake in and we would have accessibility at the end. By having controller remapping, by having assists for things that seem trivial, we allow people to get past those blockers and experience it in a way that it's intended. The features that I am most excited for players to try out are the combat assists. I think that these are just amazingly fun to use.
In the last title, we had a feature called Recenter on Attack. Every time you'd hit an enemy, the camera would make sure that enemy was centered.
When we're looking at God of War Ragnarok, we've expanded those combat options to allow for recenter on swing, which means that as you swing your axe in combat, you're going to slowly orient towards a different enemy.
This is one of my personal favorite features because every time you swing the axe or swing the blades, the camera recenters towards the enemy.
This allows players to go into a space, and if you have limited mobility or if you're unable to utilize the look controls, you can still target different enemies even though you're not hitting them.
One of the most important areas of innovation that we have on God of War Ragnarok would be the increased controls access that we've allowed. So, for example, players are now more able to remap the controller and choose from a wider range of presets.
The feature that I'm most excited for players to try is the Collector's Mode. Collector's Mode highlights selectable objects in the game, such as ravens, so that they're much easier for players to find.
I'm excited for players to try various features that we've created, from high contrast mode to traversal assist, auto pickup, to navigation assist.
Navigation assist was one that I particularly am proud of because we went from not being able to have someone navigate through the game at all to having someone be able to navigate using just a navigation assistance ping. So we looked at games like The Last of Us Part 2 and how they were navigating players through their world with low vision play. And we took our own internal compass system and were able to actually allow players to rotate their camera towards the compass and navigate to their next objective.
Other features to look out for would be subtitle customization. So, for example, you can color the subtitle differently from the speaker, and you can even have the speaker name show up or turn that off if you don't like to see that speaker name in front of there. You can set a background for the captions. So when you're seeing the text, if you need more contrast behind the text, that's an option that's added in there. Another cool, exciting feature that we added was directional indicators to our captions and subtitles. So wherever a noise caption is coming from, the arrow will be pointing to it. So if there's a character speaking and you see the subtitles on the screen, there will be an arrow pointing out also where that character is relative to the player's camera.
All these features will enable players to experience the game in different ways and adjust the challenge to their needs.
Some of the things that I found useful are just settings around kind of reducing the amount of inputs I have to do when I don't feel like it's super necessary for me to control that aspect of the game. This one has helped me by having options like traversal assist, which just kind of makes the character vault over things and climb up things automatically, which reduces the strain on my body so I can just get ready to fight rather than just be spending time like traveling over things.
I think a big misconception people have about accessibility features is that they're only applied to certain people.
It's not about making a game easy. It's not about adding cheats. Accessibility controls are beneficial for everyone. It's beneficial for people with disabilities to be able to better engage with the game, but also open up those menus and see what they can do for you.
People think accessibility means easy mode, and it is absolutely not about easy mode. If someone is unable to use their hand, for example, it doesn't mean that they want a lower difficulty. They just need to be able to set the controls in a way that allows them to use the controls differently.
I'm partially deaf, so I can only hear out my right side. And the fact that they had audio panning made me really, really happy because I still can feel vibrations through my left. So I just channeled more of the audio through to my right side, which enabled me to hear everything just kind of better.
Growing up playing games one-handed was very challenging. Early games didn't have all the accessibility features that games like God of War Ragnarok and The Last of Us Part 2 have.
There's a stronger motivation there to be a better developer and a better designer when you know that you are making people's lives better by allowing them to play.
The future of accessibility in video games is very exciting. As we continue to innovate and the conversation grows, the experience just gets better for everyone. My hope is that it will expand beyond our current audience to include everyone.
The more every studio takes in information about what can make accessibility better, the more we can inspire each other and the better we can make all of our games more accessible.
I really have a high vision of making games that are not just accessible in the way that you can just get through them, but that they're accessible in a way that they are enjoyable and create more choice for players. When we look at the way that the industry is turning, we're moving away from this idea of let's just get the player through the game and more into how can we make an accessible game the most enjoyable experience, and how can we integrate these things into our games at a core level so that every player has access to those things. And as we expand that, I think that we're going to see an industry that is not only more accessible but is more enjoyable overall.
Fair warning, friends. Should you prefer to remain unburdened by foreknowledge of the thrilling adventures of Kratos, Atreus, and yours truly, then turn back now. Spoilers for Ragnarok lie ahead.
All the relationships, especially the ones that carried over 2018, God of War, Kratos realizing that he's part of something. He's part of, God forbid that I say it, a family. And I think that's a great moment for Kratos, because I don't think he ever, in his wildest dreams, ever imagined that he'd be part of anything again. Hi, I'm Christopher Judge, and I play Kratos.
Hi, my name is Bruno Velasquez. I'm the animation director on God of War Ragnarok.
Eu sou o Ricardo Juarez e sou o dublador do Kratos no Brasil.
أنا هشام الشاذلي بلعب شخصية كريتوس في النسخة العربي من الإصدار الجديد لGod of War.
クレイトスの声を担当させていただいております三宅健太です。
Hi, my name is Eric Jacobus. I'm the stuntman for Kratos, as well as the stunt coordinator for God of War Ragnarok.
My role as an animation director is really there to assist Chris and the other actors on the style of movement that we want to keep consistent across the characters.
I always think physically bigger. So I try to stand bigger. I try to stand wider. I try to stand more firmly. And every time he moves, I want it to have a sense of purpose, that he's going to do something. Because Kratos, in my mind, doesn't ever do something by happenstance. There's always a definitive objective. So that would give purpose to his movements.
There's a certain amount of chaos with Kratos' combat. And there's a moment, and I always clock it, from about 90 degrees this way to 90 degrees that way. When I do that attack, it's like I throw my entire body into it, and there's a little bit of chaos, and I catch myself at the end. And normally in other characters, that's not allowed, right? You're not allowed to kind of lose it like that. But in that 90-degree window, I'm allowed to lose it, and they like that. And then I pull it right back. And that's kind of like the Kratos brand that, you know, the animators and the director have really helped foster and create with me.
Every direction that we give to our actors or animators is to always keep them consistent, to put themselves into that space of always being a warrior ready for battle.
The animators and the director helped sort of create a language around how Kratos moves. Some of those things include a really fast return to idle so that he always looks like he's in combat, a certain amount of shake when he swings a weapon. You know, there are these little pieces that I'm always thinking of whenever I do movements for Kratos that really help make the character feel like he's in the combat the whole time.
Working with Christopher Judge, who was the voice and also motion capture performer for Kratos, has been one of the best experiences that I had in my career. A lot of the motion that comes through in the cinematics especially really is just him becoming Kratos.
For me, the first time I inhabited the role of Kratos, I was in such splendid physical condition that I actually felt like Kratos. When I saw the rendering, I felt that I was him.
そのクリストファーさんの演技を見ながら声を入れさせていただいたんですが、本当に助けられました、僕は。彼の演技がですね、特に彼の目がいつもキラキラと潤んでるんですよ。それがなんかより前回よりもクレイトスになんか人間味みたいな。
Ô Ricardo, ali eu sou o Kratos, então são muitas horas concentrado ali, entrando no personagem, fazendo com que o personagem realmente tenha uma identificação com o público para que haja imersão.
سهل انك تقول كريتوس او تبقى كريتوس في المعركة، انما في الكابوس، في التعرض للخوف، في الاحساس بقدر من الهزيمة، قلة الحيلة قدام ابنه، اهتزاز صورته قدام ابنه، كل ده صعب قوي انك تعبر عنه بصوت قوي.
So at the beginning of God of War Ragnarok, Kratos is in a different stage that he was in the previous game. Of course, now he has accepted the passing of his wife. He's accepting his role as a father, but then now his son is seeking a lot more. So Kratos is coming to terms on how do I best raise Atreus and how do I guide him.
We follow your every whim.
But you don't believe in any of it.
And still I follow. Because all that matters is that you are safe.
But that's not all that matters. Who's keeping you safe?
We are very interested in exploring what it's like to have a relationship with your own child. Even, Chris Judge, him being a father as well, it's always something that comes up on stage, talking about our kids and talking about our relationships with our own families.
Well, some of the things emotionally with Kratos are very readily accessible to me. Being a father, being willing to do whatever it takes to ensure that your children are safe.
التعامل ما بينه وما بين ابنه ده كان أكتر شيء، أو المشاهد دي أو الجمل اللي بيتكلم فيها مع ابنه كانت بالنسبة لي ممتعة جدا، لأنها كانت بتعلمني لحد ما عن طريقتي، بكتشف طريقتي أنا في التعامل مع ابني.
Até o Kratos conseguiu evoluir. Ele é uma versão melhor de si mesmo. E ele faz tudo pelo Atreus. Tudo, tudo. Ele está preparando o Atreus para o Ragnarok. E para que isso aconteça, ele vai se dedicar ao máximo. Ele vai além do que ele poderia imaginar.
Even though Kratos has a difficulty expressing the way that he feels about Atreus, it's really demonstrated through Kratos' actions that he really cares about him. He would move mountains for him. He literally climbed the highest point to respect the wishes of his wife. That just shows that Kratos really, once he cares for someone, even though he doesn't express it through his words, he does it through his actions.
Kratos no longer pontificates to Atreus. He's no longer speaking to an audience that just listens. He is now having debates with rebuttals with a young man who possesses his own ideas, his own thoughts, what he perceives to be his own trajectory to get to where he needs to be. The hard part, I think, of Kratos' journey is him learning to listen. And that's what comes with having such black and white view of right and wrong. A lot of times you're not receptive to what someone is telling you about how they feel. And I think that was A huge part of Kratos' growth was him learning how to listen.
今回はとにかく仲間たち、本当にいっぱい対話を重ねるんですね、ゲームの中で。その中ですごく人を受け入れる度量の大きさみたいなのが一段進化したように僕は感じましたね。何かを大きく受け入れる器みたいな、心の器みたいなものが本当に一個進化したんじゃないかなって思ってます。
Hey, don't go forgetting this what'll get you there.
Another fun part about being on set is just seeing Chris Judge and Sonny Suljic just interact with each other. Almost like Kratos and Atreus interact in the game. They become buddies throughout the years, and it's almost like father and son relationship is almost manifested on set the same way.
I met Sonny when he was 10. So I've seen all the stages of his development. Now, in Ragnarok, he's a teenager, feeling himself, good-looking young kid, and he had ideas. Like he actually was able to break down scenes and have his own ideas about them. And I remember the first time it happened, I just stood back like, wow, this is a whole different dude. Like this isn't, that little kid that had a million distractions. This is a young man who is very intelligent, very thoughtful, because I had gone through it with my children. It was something that I had missed very much as a father, as a man, was seeing this evolution of a human being and seeing them growing into who they are going to be. That part of it for me was great. And it was really interesting to me to see that, not only between Kratos and Atreus, but between Sonny and I.
It has been really interesting to see how the character of Kratos has evolved, especially on the last game, coming from the Greek period over to the Norse era. To see him become a father once again, to see him recognize that there was a lot of things in his past that perhaps he wasn't very proud of, a lot of terrible things that he did, and seeing that almost him getting a second chance at having a family, at raising a child, going through those changes, sort of accepting himself. It always has been really interesting to me.
If I do this...
Fate only binds you if you let it. Do what is necessary, not because it is written.
I'm so excited for people to be able to continue this journey called God of War Ragnarok. My youngest son, who is one of my harshest critics, said, Daddy, I didn't want it to end. Well, neither did I. I missed every day that I wasn't with this collaboration of folks. So if you loved God of War 2018, I truly hope that you have a chance to experience Ragnarok. It's gonna blow your socks off. Truly.
Take it from the smartest man alive. There are drawbacks to knowing everything. Spoilers aplenty are ahead, so tread carefully lest you find your own noggin bouncing off a rather firm backside. Metaphorically speaking, of course.
I've got this!
When you're playing a game, in order to have an emotional response that feels real, music can help generate that connection to what you're doing. My name is Bear McCreary. I'm the composer for God of War Ragnarok.
Hello, my name is Sonia Coronado, and my role here in God of War Ragnarok is music production lead.
My name is Kellogg Boynton, and I'm a recording and mixing engineer for the music department here at PlayStation Studios.
Hi, my name is Justin Fields. I'm in the music affairs group and typically handle music contracts and licensing. For God of War Ragnarok, I was invited to compose English language lyrics for the music score.
Composing music for a video game begins in my studio, in my head. I want to come up with themes that will resonate, melodies that gamers will be able to take with them on this journey. From there, it involves a lot of people.
My main goal for this game is to make an interactive music experience for the players so they feel really immersed in the world of God of War through music.
My role on the production for the music of God of War was to help oversee the recording sessions, working with our external engineering partners, both over in London and over in Iceland, working with them on mic choice and placement, providing them any details that they may need, as well as being able to mix some of the score.
The music group at PlayStation strives to leave no creative stone unturned, and composing lyrics for the score and translating those to Old Norse was an opportunity for us to lend an air of authenticity that will help bring the players into the realm and world of God of War Ragnarok.
Well, I recognize that dour expression anywhere.
As a composer and as a fan, I want to go into a sequel and hear something that gives me exactly what I want and exactly what I don't know that I want. What do I want as a fan? The same thing. I want to hear that same theme again. But what do I need is new information and a new perspective on that material. I think my initial challenge in facing God of War Ragnarok was in trying to match, ultimately exceed the scope of my score for God of War. When I read the script for Ragnarok, the story was expanding. The roster of characters, the realms, everything was bigger and simultaneously needed to be as emotionally immediate.
You tell me if you were gonna eat me. That's a joke, right?
Probably the biggest challenge for me was coming up with a theme for Atreus, which I didn't do last time. I didn't do last time because the story really didn't need it. I had a theme for his mom, I had a theme for his dad, and the game was about his relationship with those two entities. God of War Ragnarok was different. I needed a theme for Atreus. And I struggled with this one. I went through many drafts. Finally, I came across an idea of using the Nordic folk instruments predominantly to be his theme, to pull back on the orchestra and almost get rid of it. And I got a really small group of strings, just 5 strings, had them start chugging away. Dun, 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 dun. It was small and tight, like a rock track. And then I brought in a nickel harpa and a Hardinger fiddle and wrote this theme for them that was quite literally the Kratos theme turned on its head. Instead of bum, 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 I just turned it around. Bum, 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 bum. It's telling you twice in a row. Twice in a row it tells you, hey, this is the Kratos theme, but it's backwards. And I pitched it like this. I said, Atreus' theme has got to be scrappy, it's got to be smaller. He's growing up. We don't want it to be as big and ominous and powerful and slow as the Kratos theme. It's got to be different. So it's going to be a little smaller. And I hit play. And at the end, I remember Eric Williams was quiet and Corey was laughing. Corey was like laughing at me. And he looked at me and he said, I love that you think that piece is smaller. And I felt at that point that I had, in a way, overcome the biggest challenge I was gonna face. I thought from there, be smooth sailing. Turns out I was wrong about that.
One of the biggest challenges that we overcame is that we had to record this entire score remotely. Obviously, due to the pandemic, we were not allowed to travel for obvious reasons. So we had to be able to figure out how to do this all remotely with our team in Los Angeles while recording the orchestra over in London and in Iceland. So being able to kind of pull together as a team and pull this off, especially with the hurdles that we had to work through, it was a huge accomplishment for everyone involved.
And I find that the quality of the implementation, the creative instincts of the team that are actually putting the music into the game are part of what shapes your experience when you play it.
One of my proudest achievements is something that we actually thought early on during this project. We were wondering, is there a way to not cut off melodies in a game that is so interactive? So we really try to carry that vision into this game, and it was really a team effort to make this happen, but we ensured that in all boss fights and in all systemic content, as much as we could, to let no melody be harmed. And I hope all the players get to enjoy that.
Oh, it's really you.
The first day that I met with Corey and Eric to discuss God of War Ragnarok, we spent the vast majority of it talking about Angrboda and Atreus. Her impact on the story is massive, and making sure that she and Atreus had a relationship that works and that the audience bonds with her was a primary focus for me as a composer. In many ways, her theme pushes the boundaries of our score a little bit. I wanted sounds that would be in the same musical realm as these Nordic folk instruments, but I wanted something that was different.
It's this perfect mix of sweetness and innocence combined with the magic aspect of this realm. So the use of dulcimers, for example, to really represent that childlike innocence, but also this flute-like melody that really carries the story of Angrboda.
So this unique wooden flute comes in, playing her melody. And her melody is closely connected to the Atreus tune. The first 5 notes are the same. Da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da, that's Atreus. Da-da-da-da-da, that's Angrboda. Because they're related, their fates are intertwined.
Here are the English language lyrics for Angrboda's theme, which is titled The Giantess of Ironwood. Mother, mother of wolves, you will endure. You will endure. You are your savior. Keeper, keeper of souls. The last giantess, mother of wolves, you will endure.
Asa! Faster! We got him now!
So this cue is a great example of how we use a few words to accomplish something fairly impactful. The line, you are your savior, in particular, speaks volumes about Angrboda's character arc. The concept of breaking free from one's own fate and taking control of one's own destiny is a common theme across all of the God of War games, and exploring that as it applies to Angrboda was an extremely interesting and exciting opportunity.
If I was supposed to fight alongside you, I wouldn't disappear from your damn mural halfway through.
She's lived under the weight of this prophecy her whole life, knowing that she was going to have to help Loki. And a big part of her dramatic evolution comes from what happens after that.
Whoa!
Gotcha!
Thanks.
So I think the aspects that I'm most excited for the players to experience are actually the music for each realm.
Hearing how the music and themes elevate the experience.
The way that we've been able to tell a story through music.
Perfect.
Really excited for players to be able to experience all of that.
Everybody on the music team, the sound team, and all of the writers and cast that I interacted with, For all of us, it's a passion project. We're doing this because we love it. And I am so excited for fans to get to hear all the new music and get to go to all 9 realms. I can't wait for fans to pop this game in and be transported away.
I beg of you, dear friends, if you've not yet experienced the full events of Ragnarok, spoilers are coming.
Vanaheim is a very large realm, but it was the most ambitious realm I think the studio's ever tackled. We wanted to do so much, and we did so much, and somehow we pulled it off. Hi, my name is Aaron Contreras, and I am a senior environment artist at Santa Monica Studio.
My name is Lena. My role on the game is a 3D environment artist.
My name is Jeremy War, and I'm a senior staff level designer.
My name is Elizabeth Bright, and I'm a level designer at Santa Monica Studio.
Hi, my name is Christopher Lloyd, and I'm the lead visual effects artist.
My name is Carol Williams. I am the level design producer on God of War Ragnarok. As a level design producer, I help create the world that you see in the games. We work very closely with the environment artists, VFX artists, lighters to really bring the world together.
My role as a level designer, I get to create a lot of the really interesting and different gameplay spaces that the player gets to play through. Level designer will create the map already with some very simple environment. Our job is to make it pretty and make it real.
So my role as a visual effects artist, if you made a cake, we would be the frosting. So we add the art on top of other art. For example, Kratos' blades, we do the fire on them. If there's weather, snow, magic, that's all visual effects.
Wow, it's beautiful. And, wet.
It is also dangerous.
We didn't really see much of Vanaheim in the previous game, other than that little window in Freya's house. So what we did was we took that little window and we just really expanded that, and we almost kind of turned that into like multiple different biomes all within one realm. You know, you've got the jungles, you've got the savannas, you've got these ruins, you've got caves, you've got kind of like swampy areas. And they all kind of retain a little bit of that palette from that original window.
We pull a lot from Norse mythology as we're creating the different realms, but we've also added our own unique twists and inspiration to each of the realms, so the player is surprised each time they play through, with the added layer of Fimbulwinter and the upcoming war to add tension and build interest as the player plays through these different sections.
Vanaheim had very little kind of actual written mythology, but in our own kind of story, we've implemented the story of Skull and Hati and kind of the idea of the moon and the sun and other characters such as Freya. Those were some physical, mythological elements that we could use to put into the environment to really help tell the player and anyone that's kind of paying attention, like, okay, this is Vanaheim.
Pretty much it originated from the concept art and the storyboards that the artists created in terms of coming up with unique visions for what a Vanaheim jungle could look like. So pieces showing sort of the thick jungle, the canopy. From those sort of visual cues, we basically lay out the player's journey through Vanaheim as it adheres to the narrative direction.
Vanaheim is extremely different than all the other realms that we visit. The grotto specifically, or the crater, where we actually get to see that world.
Fate only binds you if you let it. Do what is necessary, not because it is written.
Vanaheim is very unique Typically, a level would have like one main state where that state sort of determines the look and how things behave. For Vanaheim, the realm features a time of day cycle. So what that means is that all areas of the level, except for a small few, every area has two different states that are fully functional and determine, their behavior.
Implementing the day-night cycle kind of meant like, okay, what can we do with the plants? Can we make plants animate, or can we have a scene where you're there during the daytime, then you come back later and it's drastically different?
We have to make effects for the daytime and the nighttime, so that way they read on both levels. So in the daytime, it's a lot more subtle, but everything still reads well and feels natural. At night, we want, effects to kind of glow. You'll notice some plants will start having some nighttime glowing feel.
There's certain foliage or plant life that would be active. Different wildlife could be active. Enemies that the player may fight are tied to the time of day. And the way that Vanaheim is set up, the level can transition from one state to the other at a moment's notice. And that's particularly important once the player gets control of the time of day later on in the game, where they can pretty much change it at their discretion. It was a very challenging under the hood to get all these parts to work correctly. Yeah, it was a very satisfying challenge to accomplish.
I don't know if you've ever been in a jungle before, but it gets pretty disorienting. So, whether it be day or night, you'll just get lost. And that's something that we've had to figure out how to help players get the direction they need. And again, adding the layer of the day versus night made it even extra challenging.
My priority, other than to make things beautiful and realistic, I also focus on how to make plays memorable, so it's not feel generic or repetitive, or for player to get lost easily. I would, let's say, put a very weird shaped rock on the side of the road, and so when player passes by, they will be like, I remember that rock. Or put a massive root that comes out from the ground, and that will have some impact to player.
What we can do to help the player is kind of guide them through kind of environmental storytelling. We're also thinking about what other kind of elements can we put in there that kind of remind the player of the story, or of things that have happened, or maybe are foreshadowing things that are going to happen. If there's an enemy coming up that you've never encountered before, maybe there's some bones or some footprints on the ground or scratch marks, something to kind of indicate, something's coming that you weren't expecting.
Our environment team is amazing, so we just get to sprinkle in effects everywhere, and especially for Vanaheim, where it's such a new and jungly place, you get to really put in cool little insects and different type of things in the air, and I think the team really did well at bringing that to life. Just in general, Vanaheim is just one of those realms that people haven't seen yet, so I'm just kind of excited for people to go through there for the first time and just explore, because there's a lot in Vanaheim.
We're here.
You live in a tree?
Not in it. Below it.
Heimdall! Look!
Having worked on the previous God of War game, on Freya's house and the forest and kind of the surrounding areas, I did spend a lot of time getting to know Freya's character, and on this game I did get to spend a lot of time with her there as well. So seeing her evolve from this character who is this humble, kind of secretive witch just living in the forest very peacefully, and then has her life kind of disrupted.
You must be better than this.
In the last moments of God of War 2018, what Kratos had done to Freya by killing her son.
He saved your life!
He robbed me of everything!
We left off seeing Freya very angry and bitter towards Kratos, wanting revenge.
Everything.
We are discovering Vanaheim along with Freya because she hasn't been back to the realm in a long time.
My village. I hardly recognize it. I used to play hide and seek with Freya in the crops. At harvest time, we'd dance and feast until the sun rose. Why did I have to come back here and be reminded of all this?
We want to show sort of the decline that the realm has suffered in her absence, you know, sort of the heartbreak that she would feel when she revisits areas that were once vibrant, that have now succumbed to Odin's forces and their occupation of Vanaheim.
You are not the one who needs to die.
You know, just in the environment art alone, you can see this realm used to be something much greater. Freya used to be someone much greater. She used to be a queen, but that's all but forgotten now. All you see are these strewn bits of stone and metal, and everything just intertwined with the jungle environment.
We want to sort of visually tell that story and sort of communicate that kind of pain that maybe she would feel on discovering, you know, the destruction. But I think there's also a bit of like a redemption as well, in terms of her finally coming back and trying to reclaim what was once under her rule, and then sort of showing some hope for the future in terms of her starting to mount a resistance against Odin.
On your right!
Just seeing everything put together, seeing what environments did with all the creatures and the animals and the plant life.
My proudest moment with our game is just seeing all of it from start to finish coming to life. The people that worked so hard on it, they really worked hard to pull that world together, and it really shows in how fun it is, even how beautiful it is. Seeing what it became is really amazing to me.
When designing a new realm, we definitely take player expectations into consideration, as we want to still surprise and delight the player by creating a new space that they have not seen before, but also still maintaining the high standard of quality that we've provided to them in previous realms.
It feels good to see, once everything is put together, how much impact it really has. The last time I played it, it's fantastic, and I think people will really enjoy it.
Fair warning, friends. Should you prefer to remain unburdened by foreknowledge of the thrilling adventures of Kratos, Atreus, and yours truly, then turn back now. Spoilers for Ragnarok lie ahead.
A big part of the inspiration for this scene, at least the emotional through line of the scene, is it taps into some of the fears that we have as parents.
Atreus, the time draws near. You must prepare yourself.
For what? He's still eating. He wants to live.
He is dying.
I'm Matt Sofis. I'm the narrative director on God of War Ragnarok.
Hi, my name is Estelle Tigani, and I'm the cinematics producer on God of War Ragnarok.
My name is Bruno Velasquez. I am the animation director on God of War Ragnarok.
Hi, my name is Erica Pinto, and I'm the lead narrative animator on God of War Ragnarok.
It's my job to work with a cross-disciplinary group of really talented people to set the course, try to keep it on track, and then get out of the way to let people be great at their jobs.
The pipeline for a cinematic starts with the script phase. The writers on the narrative team will collaborate together and complete the script for a cinematic, and it will get reviewed by our game director, Eric Williams, before getting passed over to the cinematics team. My job on the cinematics team is to help guide the cinematics through the pipeline, track tasks, make sure everything is on schedule and on time.
I work very closely with many departments, including our visual arts service group, and our cinematic arts group, and we work closely with them to develop the staging, the previs of our cinematics, and we go to the mocap shoots.
My role in God of War Ragnarok was to oversee all the animation direction across the entirety of the game. It was definitely a big challenge because this is one of the most ambitious games that we were done at the studio for sure.
Today we're going to be taking a look at one of the cinematics in our game, one that we called Fenrir Returns.
Kratos and Atreus have traveled to Helheim to fix a mistake that Atreus made while working for Odin. He ended up freeing Garm, the Hound of Hell. It led to a massive fight, and they ended up having to put Garm down. But they didn't do it in the conventional way that you'd expect from God of War. They didn't just kill Garm. Atreus ended up using a soul that was trapped in his knife.
Please work, please work, please work! I'm sorry!
We opted not to go with storyboards most of the time. The reason why is we have a no-cut camera. Storyboards are really good at showing between each cut, close, far away, but the hard work is mostly in how that no-cut camera is going to move around the scene. So instead we opt for Scene Bible or our pre-visualization phase.
On the last project, we discovered that previs was easiest to do when we were all together, able to shoot live action reference or get into mocap suits and shoot on stage. During COVID, we were all stuck at home. What we ended up doing was going back to more traditional previews where we would work directly in Maya. It took a lot more iteration and experimentation to make sure we got the timing where we thought it would be realistic when we got to the stage.
One of the big moments in this scene is to see what happens to Garm, and we encounter him inside this cave.
And the way that it's been set up, the lighting, the mood, the way that the camera is kind of creeping behind Atreus as he's creeping up on Fenrir is meant to communicate this sense of uneasiness and uncertainty about how this is going to go.
You're okay.
As Atreus approaches the cave, he's really hoping that the soul that Angerboda told him was in his knife was Fenrir's. He didn't know for sure.
Sorry I hurt you. It's over now. I promise.
So the biggest challenge for this scene was to really get the sense of that change of personality. So at first, you just finish this giant battle against Garm, and you're not quite sure if it's still a threat. This is why we chose to place him in that cave, make it a little bit of like, oh, is he gonna leap out? Is he gonna attack us again? And of course, Atreus kind of recognizing him and kind of knowing his own pet, he's the one that kind of figures it out first. Slowly you see that transformation, that transition into Fenrir.
Fen? Are you?
Some of the aspects we really wanted to get right with the scene was selling that tension leading into kind of this relief and joy, seeing that Atreus's gamble paid off.
Boy!
So to bring Fenrir to life, there was a lot of research that went into it. Starting all the way back in 2018, we paid a visit to the Wolf Connection, which is a place where you can interact directly with actual wolves. We got a lot of footage of this and also learned a lot about actual wolf behavior, how it differs from dogs. For instance, when you approach a wolf, you're actually supposed to bring your hands underneath the wolf's head. Because Fenrir was more like a pet, we ended up not actually doing the underhanded approach.
Yeah. I missed you too. Didn't know if that would work.
Where Atreus can tell that it's Fenrir when he comes out of the cave. This is the stretch of the scene where Kratos is realizing it himself.
We did it!
Working with the actors on stage, obviously we didn't have a giant 20-foot wolf.
So what we had to do is we had to have the actors interact with a puppet.
In this case, we actually had two puppeteers. We had someone holding a giant pad on a pole to represent kind of the scale of the dog that the actors could go up and work with. But for the camera view, we had this little virtual prop that could show on the screen the giant wolf, and then we would tilt it, and then the camera operator could see where is the giant wolf.
My favorite bit of this part of the scene is, of course, Kratos just simply saying, sit.
Sit.
And then immediately sits down with no hesitation.
Even the camera is getting into the action. You hear the audio of the big kaboom, like a little earthquake.
The camera and the staging was able to really capture them as a family unit.
Tilting upwards to show such a large creature, but also keeping that focus on these two characters that are having a very intimate conversation between Kratos and Atreus. I think this is a really important moment because you've got that dog in the background that's kind of offsetting this more serious conversation. If you look, you'll see that Fenrir is just kind of like ping-ponging between them, which animals do.
Leading up to this moment, Kratos and Atreus have had a lot of tension where Kratos is trying to kind of hold on to Atreus and Atreus needs to break away and form his own identity.
How is this possible?
It's giant magic.
For Fenrir, we actually mostly did hand-keyed, which means our animators would pose the wolf and move him around all themselves. Some other research we did, we ended up shooting reference footage with dogs. And you'll see, when the wolf comes and kind of crawls towards Kratos and Atreus, just trying to nail that body mechanics.
And what we ended up doing, because of the different camera angles and the size of the wolf that we were going to represent in game, what we did is we ended up shooting from the camera perspective and the closeness that we needed to recreate in our scene, which presented itself as amazing reference for our animators.
For me, the most exciting part was once we got the wolf data in and we started to hand key Fenrir a little bit more and you start to see his personality come forward and come to life. To me, that was a true joy.
We also really wanted to lean in finding natural behaviors that dogs and wolves do when he yawns and shakes himself, just really feeling all the fur. And we want to sell that this is something that's alive and not just a bunch of polygons on the screen. I think the most exciting thing about bringing this scene to life was just watching it go from this very rudimentary scene of just two guys sliding around in a horribly animated puppet wolf to something that feels believable and you're just like, oh, Fenrir is such a good boy and he gets all the pets.
I've been learning things.
In Asgard.
This has nothing to do with that.
More secrets.
No. A promise. One that someone's trusting me to keep. Like you kept your promise to Mom?
From a narrative perspective, what we wanted to achieve with this scene is to demonstrate the developing relationship between Kratos and Atreus and their building of trust towards each other.
Atreus is growing up and learning to become independent and make amends when he makes mistakes.
It's this wonderful little moment where Kratos realizes maybe that he doesn't have to worry so much anymore.
See what I can do when you trust me?
Thank you for joining us as we broke down Fenrir Returns, one of many, many cinematics in God of War Ragnarok. And big thanks to everyone. There are hundreds of people who come together to make one of these possible.
View the following spoilers with discretion, my friends.
Sometimes you have to fight battles, and it's how you fight those battles is what matters. And I think knowing that you don't have to go through it alone is important, and you can have people around you. And I think that's what Kratos and Atreus and everyone in this game kind of learns. My name is Göksuur. I am the AI lead and the narrative tech design co-lead on God of War Ragnarok.
My name's Connor Radding-Bland. I'm a narrative animator here at SMS.
I'm Andrew Loyola, or Aloy, as some of my coworkers know me as, and I'm a QA lead on God of War Ragnarok.
I'm Rajul Ramchandani. I'm a tech designer here at Santa Monica Studios.
As a narrative animator, usually my primary job is to work on the cinematics for the game.
My primary responsibility is to manage the test coverage that goes into a game of its size.
I'm a technical designer, and what that entails is that we end up working on set pieces, little character moments around the level, gameplay mechanics.
It almost feels like we are building a puzzle together, but we are also building all the pieces from scratch. And as a lead, one of my biggest roles is making sure we deliver what we promised to deliver at the end.
Ready.
In the previous game, there was also almost no family to start with. There was Kratos, who was afraid to show his true self because of her past trauma to his son. And we watched them kind of build that relationship as the game goes on. And we kind of got to a point where they were father and son at the end.
In this game, we've explored a lot about Atreus figuring out who he is, but he can't really do that without the people around him.
It starts with just Kratos and Atreus, and as they build their relationship, as they are becoming this duo of who's always there for each other, they also bring in other people. They bring in Mimir, they bring in Brock and Sindri, and it's not just them. Like, as you go through the game, you see the Freyr Five, you see the Odin and his family.
Kratos tries to protect Atreus as best as he can through training, through being a literal shield for him. But Atreus wants to get out there and figure out what he needs to do on his own. And throughout the entire game, they're just butting heads on, I need to do this myself, or no, this is not our business. We need to protect ourselves.
Stop thinking like a father for a moment and start thinking like a general.
No!
Odin's giving relationship probably is what attracted Atreus to work with him in the first place, despite knowing that Odin is the cause of many of the troubles of all of his other friends.
Feel free to come and go. Take what you need, poke around as you please. You're not my prisoner. And more importantly, I am not your father.
Odin is more hands-off. Odin kind of sends him on missions, and he lets Atreus go out and about.
I just wish Atreus were not so restless.
That separation and Atreus being away for a while kind of also allows Kratos to learn that sometimes being overly protective is not always good. You need to give some space to your kids so that they can figure out who they are. And I think that's a very good change for Atreus in the beginning, because he feels like this is someone, letting me do my own thing.
But we kind of figure out later on that Odin is only warm up until a point when your usefulness has run out. And that's when we see his true colors, and Atreus kind of realizes that everything that Odin has given him, while maybe useful, is a facade.
Thor was really great. I learned a lot from him.
You learned something from him? Really now? Okay. What did you teach the kid?
Nothing. What could I possibly teach him?
Exactly.
Found family as a theme started back in the first God of War in the Norse series. Mimir, towards the end of the last game, mentions that we couldn't really do it without help from Brock and Sindri and you, Atreus, and you, Kratos.
The concept of found family means a lot to me, because all my family and my friends that I grew up with are back in Turkey. It was just me and my husband for a very long time.
I think a lot of what this game talks to is about accepting each other and realizing that the people around you can be your family.
We've gone through that. We've built our families through my coworkers in the studio who are my friends now. And I think that is what's happening in this game too.
Whether it's Kratos, Mimir, and Atreus and Angerboda, or Brock and Sindri being your weird uncles, it's about accepting each other for who we are and realizing that those characters are all that they've got.
Well, come on then. Let's get him something that fits at least.
Kratos, he calls Mimir by his name instead of calling him Head. That is a huge step up. He guides Kratos and Atreus pretty faithfully throughout the entire game, trying to see past their faults and challenging them whenever they have pretty poorly formed ideas. Kratos welcomes a lot of the help that Sindri and Brock offer without too much challenge. There's that found family and the growth of trust that we see throughout the entire game. a lot more than we did on the first God of War in the Norse series.
Well, don't go getting too cheery about it.
But with how Atreus' relationship is with Kratos in the beginning of the game and kind of how it develops in the first half, you start to notice that Atreus and Sindri become close. As Atreus kind of separates from his father, Sindri almost sort of becomes this other different father figure that's giving him advice and helping him out in a way that maybe Kratos would not do. As Atreus and Sindri form a strong bond, Kratos and Brock actually get to build a bond together. I find that pairing interesting because I think you get to learn a lot about Brock. Sindri and Brock, they're separated for pretty much most of the game, and then coming into God of War Ragnarok, they're together and they sort of let go of their past quarrels, and you really get to see that they've built a strong relationship.
You mean we combine it with...
That's right.
And then when it'll go... Damn you, that's brilliant. Very well.
The realm between realms is where Brock and Sindri live. Generally a safe haven for Kratos and Atreus.
Player agency is something that we really care about in the Realm Between Realms, whether it's getting a side quest from Ratatasker or just accounting for the various player behaviors. When you walk close to a companion that's hanging around in the house, whether it's the shop or Brock or Tyr just hanging around waiting for his food or Atreus sitting in his room. We want you to feel like you've stumbled upon specific character moments.
This place is great, Sindri. You built it all yourself?
You know it.
Showing their personality as much as possible in these spaces to the player. So the animation teams kind of have to make sure that what they do is very much in character, breaking everything down and thinking in very much detail and making sure we have the tech to do so.
Being locked up for so long, you forget how much joy lives in the little things.
Another relationship that I think is interesting is the relationship between Kratos and Freya. Last game, you see them build this relationship, and you even see Atreus look up to her as almost a mom. Now, beginning of this game, you have a very angry Freya chasing you. But through the course of the game, you kind of see them work through that and mend broken relationships and kind of come back stronger.
I do not regret saving your life, and never will. But the choice between life and death should have been yours to make. I should not have robbed you of that choice.
So you got Freya, and then you have her brother, Freyr.
You sold my sister to that prick.
We broke it a piece.
Oh! Did you now? Where is it?
The key element between those two is when Freya left to be with Odin, they separated.
Freya, as we know from the previous game, went to go marry Odin as a potential solve to the Aesir-Vanir War, and Freyr was left to pick up the pieces. On one hand, Freyr was dealt a bad hand. He wasn't a natural leader like Freya was, and kind of blamed her for a lot of the hard times that he fell upon. Both of them thought they were trying to do the right thing, and the other thought that it wasn't the right thing to do.
In this game, you kind of find out that Freya felt abandoned by Freyr, and you get to see those two come together and be a strong family again.
Abandon you? Oh, Freya. I mourned you. Oh, I've missed you so much.
Like how Kratos and Atreus rely on their found family throughout the entire game, the people and development team at Santa Monica Studio, we're all there to support each other and really make the best game that we can make.
I've had to move across the world essentially to a different country, and you end up being away from family a lot of the times, and your friends become your family. I think that's something I've hopefully have helped relate in the game as well.
I've really grown to love the narrative animation team here. It feels exciting in that we're all kind of coming together to create this awesome game.
With all the relationships in the game, I think the biggest lesson is everybody has room to grow and room to write their own destiny.
Life takes you through different paths, and sometimes you go through struggles, and how you go through them is important, and I think the family that you built around yourself, it would be there to fight those battles with you.
That sounds like God of War.
Finally! We've really been trying to hone in on something here at the studio, which is this idea that we're fans of our fans.
Ooh, script writing is so good.
It's a really powerful statement because we are only able to make these things because of our fans. It's just all those little things that you do out there, all the tweets, the Reddit posts, the videos, the reactions.
Thank you, video games, for being my one saving grace. You don't know how sad things have been lately. I'm ready to play. Let's go.
There's so much positivity that can be had from games, and I think when our team gets that, it just energizes us to want to do even better and put out something that's just magical.
This final portion of the interview is like a fan thank you, right? So I want to say, on behalf of the studio, on behalf of myself, thank you for playing God of War. I really hope you guys enjoy playing the game as much as I enjoy animating on it.
Your passion and just overall excitement of these titles keep us going. We know, especially over the last few years, how important our time is and how valuable that is, and any time that you give to anything that we work on is just, we're so grateful for it.
I know it's kind of a cliche thing to say, but we can't do this without you. We can't thank you enough for being huge fans of the series.
We all pour so much of ourselves into this game. It's not just a job for us. And knowing that there's an audience out there that supports us and gives so much of themselves right back to us, it makes the hard work so much easier.
Your enthusiasm is felt by me and the team every single day. We have a big team, we have big goals, we have a high quality bar. And every day I can take a moment and bring up some YouTube videos and I see the excitement from you all and it drives me forward.
Those moments when I started to feel a little bit low, I would go look to social media and Twitter, Facebook, whatever, and just kind of start seeing all the excitement out there, how people could not wait for this game, and it would renew my energy in ways that I never thought possible.
Every now and then, game development gets really hard, as I've said and as you probably know, and I'll go outside and I'll be wearing my God of War shirt or my God of War jacket, and somebody will be like, "Oh my gosh, is that God of War? I can't wait for Ragnarok." And a great conversation is sparked, and it really is the fuel that I need to keep going, because knowing that people are truly excited for this game is really cool.
For 4 years after the release of the last game, that these characters still resonate with you and you want to see more of it, it really inspires us to try and deliver to you something that is meaningful, but also is just fun as hell to play.
To see every time we post some news or there's a bit of fandom out there, and just the reaction on social media and amongst the community, it kept us going, and it certainly kept me going to want to continue to finish this game out and make it the best game.
I have the great privilege of being able to share your works and your words with the team here. I get to see, the smiles on their faces once they see some of your fan art, the cosplays, and incredible works that you guys have put together. It really reminds me how incredibly special the God of War community is.
We see your tweets, we see your fan art, we see your reaction videos, and those are the things that keeps us going. And I hope when you play this game, you feel the thought and the care and the passion and the blood and the sweat that was poured into this game.
When I've had a long day, the best pick-me-up, I'll pop on one of those YouTube videos and just see the enthusiasm and love that you all have for the characters, and it just lifts me up and keeps me going. I can't thank you enough. I love you.
I know it's been a long time coming, but you are really what keeps us going, especially through the end of this project.
To all the fans out there, thank you for playing, thank you for listening, and thank you for covering my themes on YouTube. Keep them coming. Dude, there's people like heavy metal and like cello and flute, you know, like a bunch of stuff.
I personally love watching all the Let's Plays and reaction videos. Like, we all watch them and share them around the office.
Just hearing about how much they enjoyed God of War 2018 and how excited they are for Ragnarok, seeing the different cosplays that they've been doing, the different fan arts, and just hearing people buzz and talk about what's going to be happening in this next game has really kept me going and kept me inspired and trying harder to deliver on that.
Seeing so many positive energies in the community throughout the fans, and that really brings me back to the motivation of keep moving forward and making this game awesome.
The outpouring of fan excitement and celebration of the accessibility features motivates us to keep on going.
It just shows how wide-reaching accessibility is, and this game will now make it so a ton of new players can pick up a Leviathan axe for the first time and feel what it means to be a God of War. And that's phenomenal.
What makes my job rewarding is being able to make something that so many people feel a connection to.
This looks so good!
I'm not a big poster on social media, but I love reading all of your stories and seeing how you're able to feel a connection to the characters and the story. That is what gives my job, worth and meaning. So thank you.
今回本当にその感謝に応える以上の可能性を秘めたゴッド・オブ・ウォー・ラグナロクですので、本当にぜひぜひたっぷりこの親子の神話をご堪能ください。
Before God of War Ragnarok, I was a huge fan of this series myself. And God of War was actually the reason I wanted to pursue a career in character art. So being here, being part of this, and seeing how supportive the fans are, and how great of a community God of War has nurtured, it makes it all, great impact for us, and very, very motivating for all of us as game developers.
It's seeing the reactions of people as they experience this journey with us that really keeps us going. There's a lot of excitement that we felt throughout the entire development process, and while it was long, a lot of the fans, their excitement kept us going. So thank you for helping us be motivated to see it to the end.
Damn! Yo! Oh my god! We're back to Helheim? Bro.
بنشكرهم على إخلاصهم للي فات واستعدوا لحاجات كتير قوي ومفاجآت كتير قوي في الإصدار الجديد. プレイヤーの諸君、君たちに感謝する。ありがとう。
Thank you all for your support and excitement surrounding God of War Ragnarok. I can't wait for you to play the game and hear the music score.
Muchas gracias a todos mis amigos de Latinoamérica y de España y de todos los lugares donde se habla español. Les agradezco mucho por ser aficionados de God of War y estoy muy contento que ya pueden jugar el juego. ¿Ok? Gracias.
To the fans, I just want to give a big thank you for your support and enthusiasm for this game and this franchise. I really hope that you love what we've crafted for you.
I'm gonna cry.
I never take for granted how much you all invest in us, in our story, in our characters. And I'm incredibly thankful that you turn out to play this game and talk about it. And just thank you. I appreciate it.
Like the thing I've been telling the team the whole time is that we're kind of building a blanket. I always thought back to my childhood when I would play games. I had these moments, these really, really strong moments that I remember like gaming. And they were usually when something like bad happened or you just needed kind of escape from what the world was giving you at the time. And it always felt like, you're curling up with a blanket and like watching a good movie or listening to a record or a book or something like that. And I really wanted the team to get behind this concept of like, we're building a blanket for you all to like curl up with us, go on this adventure and just like have a good time with us, be entertained and, maybe think about a couple things while we're in there, like we'd like to have those heartfelt stories that we all go through and it's just like, make it very relatable. Our fans are everything. Like we can't do it without you. So we wanted to make something that was memorable in that way.
I just wanted
to thank all of you for taking the time out of your days to let us know how you feel and have felt about this extraordinary journey. Thank you.
To all the fans out there that support us here at Santa Monica, thank you so much. Thank you so much for going on these adventures with us.
Obrigado a todos vocês que jogaram esse game.
Shukra.
As they say in Old Norse, tak.
Obrigado.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Can't thank you enough.
Thank you for hyping me up when I need it the most.
Thank you